And we now understand that when we embark on a new way of thinking, a new perspective, and even just that imagining or wondering, what if I were healthy, our brain already knows that we are, and it starts to heal. It starts to create new neural pathways that allow new thoughts and ideas to become the new reality that the person is embarking on. So using your imagination to imagine what it feels like to be healthy and well, right there, you're already doing something to help you on that path to wholeness and wellness again. Something as simple as that.
Life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. Yeah. Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome to the Praise the Sun podcast, where I'm honored to have on my guest, Megan Edge. Megan, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here again and chatting with you again.
Yes, I'm very excited as well. Our last talk was about 2 months ago, and a lot has changed in the world since then. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Yeah, but for our audience who is not quite familiar with you and your journey, could you give us a brief introduction into who you are and what do you do as a practice?
Sure. So my name is Megan Edge, and I've been a healer and doing healing work for my whole life. And I call myself a capital H healer since about 2007, when I started to become really serious and really clear about what my purpose in life is and was, which is to be of service in whatever way possible. It's the how can I help question, which I absolutely love. And I wanted to be able to offer people something a little different than mainstream medicine or the mainstream mindset around health and wellness. And so a really important part of my journey was delving into, and still is, all manner of different kinds of healing modalities from different perspectives, different places in the world, different times in history, and being able to bring all of these different methods and ways that we can not only be healed, but be in a place of wellness as our permanent state, to bring everything together into a practice that I could then, open my doors to invite people to come in and embark on their health and healing journey with me at their side as their guide and as their mentor. So that's the basis and foundation for why I started to do the work that I do. And then in terms of, like, how do I do the work I do? There's so many different ways. There's so many different things that I am able to bring into anyone's healing journey, from energy healing, nutrition, nature as medicine, essential oils, spirituality, past life work, connecting with the divine, and old-fashioned counseling, just listening, having a shoulder for someone to lean on and being able to listen. And all of that I bring into the work that I do.
So what stood out to me is when you said capital H healer. What was your title before that, and what change, if there was a change, what created that change within you to say, no, this is healing?
That's a great question. In terms of titles, I have done so many different kinds of work. Sage, I've worked in retail, in sales when I was a lot younger. I worked as a childcare provider. I ran a daycare, actually owned a daycare, had a daycare. I've been a horticulturalist. I've been a teacher all the way along in different ways. I've worked in the financial sector as a financial guide for people, investments and their banking and all of that. A background in counseling, a background in social work, women's studies. If there was a job that could be done, I would do it. Oh, geology. Let's not forget geology and earth sciences. So with everything that I've done in the past, all the different work that I've engaged in, I always knew intuitively that there would come a point where all of these seemingly different and separate career paths would become beneficial under one umbrella. And when I decided that it was time to come out of the psychic closet, so to speak, and really own my intuition and own the things that I knew to be true about our potential as a species and as individual human beings, I realized that work that I was embarking on was the healer's journey. it is the healing work that we all need, and it's part of our human evolution. But certainly over the last 200 or 300 years, we've really, really needed that. And a lot of our healers from the past, 400 or 500 years ago, they were they were they were censored in the ways that they did back 500 years ago, and all the way along. Alternative practices, at least in North America, not in every part of the world, but in North America especially, have been co-opted by other financial interests, including pharmaceutical companies and that sort of thing. And so to be a healer isn't something that most people think of as a title, as a thing to do. You know, you're a doctor, or you're a nurse, or you're a physician, or you're a surgeon. These are titles that we're familiar with. It felt really important for me to own up and step into the work I do is healing work. Therefore, I am a healer as my moniker, as my title, which is why it's Megan Edge Master Healer. Um, that was there was an important piece in acknowledging and accepting that a healer is somebody who is a valuable part of our community and needs to be recognized as such.
Yes, exactly. I love it because it definitely is. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially in the age of, I guess, technology, information, and all that, like, we have access to so much different forms of healing and information of ways to heal other people that we didn't have in the past, that we definitely as a people need to expand our horizon on what healing is, how it can take place, how it can facilitate change within people and stuff like that.
Yes,
And yeah.
absolutely. And when someone identifies themselves as a healer, they're stepping into a very ancient lineage.
Right.
A healer in a tribal sense is the person who looks after the community. Their role is to be everything for everyone. And I know that might sound overwhelming, but really it's true. The traditional healer is the person who knows about the herbs and knows about the spices, knows about and understands psychology and intimate personal relationships. They understand family dynamics. They understand politics. They understand a bigger picture perspective of the community, and they hold that community together. And even as I'm saying this, I'm getting covered in goosebumps. We're hitting on something really true and foundational about the role of a healer in a family or in a community. And we've lost an understanding of that in North America and in many parts of the modern world. And so to bring that awareness back in of the importance of the person who holds the collective health and well-being of their community in their hands and takes responsibility for that, takes that on as a responsibility, that is an exalted role and not for the faint of heart. And also, like I said before, that ancient lineage that person is tapping into is so important. And I know from the conversations that I've been having with people over the last couple of years, last 5 years at least, there's a yearning for this. People are turning away from the mainstream medical modality simply because it does not encompass all aspects of our experience of being human, and it doesn't see us in our homes and in our communities and in our jobs to understand where illness might be coming from. And so people are yearning for this connection again with that the healer in their world.
Mm. And I love all that because that's very much true throughout history, that the there's been different names for different cultures, like in some cultures the shaman would be the name for the healer for the village, and they have all the different concoctions, ingredients, knowledge, and expertise on the different modalities to help heal people and things of that nature. And then if you look at, I guess, the family unit that we have now, is everything is so fragmented. It just depends on your family, but like us as a people, is everything is just kind of fragmented, and everyone's just kind of focused on work and getting money and stuff, and it's just kind of, we've definitely lost that form of community and bond that I guess humans thrive with throughout history. Like it creates people able to thrive. I guess that's why online, people are always seeking to form communities because they miss those circles, they miss those bonds, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is when we look at the blue zones. Have you heard of this? The blue zones?
Mm-mm.
So, blue zones are places on the planet where communities of people are living incredibly healthy lives. And scientists, our modern scientists who love to dissect everything, scientists have been studying these areas, these geographical areas, as well as the people in them, to try to better understand what is it that this community is doing that is allowing its members to live long, healthy, thriving lives. And some of the common factors that the scientists and the researchers are noticing is community, is good food and water, clean food, clean water. It doesn't seem to particularly matter whether it's a vegetarian diet or there's meat or fish in it. The key component is good food, good clean food, good clean water, and community. It's those interactions that we have with the people around us, whether it's having dinner with a group of people or going for a walk with a group of people, working outdoors in the field, building houses together. These things are fundamental human characteristics of our species, and without them, we wilt. And with them, we thrive. And it's not rocket science. I mean, it doesn't, it seems fairly obvious that these are the components that would make a healthy human being. And yet, because, like you say, we have become so fragmented and so distanced from one another, we've forgotten that. And then we don't understand why we're ill. And the doctor says, I don't know. We can't figure out why you're sick. Well, yeah, you could if you put it all together. And so that community, and then having the people in the community feeling their worth is so important. And so when we talk about the healer or the shaman or the witch, the person who had all this knowledge, then there's also the other people in the community and the roles that they play, that they understand that they have value and importance in that community. These are components, these are all the recipes for a healthy community filled with healthy individuals.
Where are the blue zones, if you know some of the locations?
I do. And people can Google blue zones and there's a ton of information. There's a whole movement around them. There's a website where you can get recipes and learn the stories of these communities. And they're in different parts of the world. There's one in Osaka, Japan. There's another one in the Amish communities, Mennonite and Amish communities, both in the States and in Canada. Greece, there's an island in Greece which has been identified as the blue zone. So there's quite a few of them scattered around the planet, but not nearly as many as you would imagine. And sadly and unfortunately, some of these communities are now being influenced by more of a Western way of looking at the world and Western foods and Western ideas and ideals. And it's interesting because their disease rates are going up. The one in Osaka, Japan's been studied for this. Their rates of cancer have increased. Their rates of Alzheimer's and dementia are increasing, and their overall lifespan is decreasing as they are being exposed to pollution, to poor food quality, and almost like a disintegration of the fabric of the community.
Wow, that's sad to think about. That once you start, bringing over some of the Western stuff, it's like just terrible for the culture, the community, and life expectancy.
Well, yes, but it really illustrates what is wrong with that approach. The North American approach to health and wellness and life and family and all of that. And a really interesting experiment was done from some of the researchers of the blue zones. They took a community in the United States. There's a documentary about it, and I can try to find the information for you so you can put it in the notes if you'd like. They did an experiment. They took a community somewhere in the US and they started to implement all of these components that they had observed in these blue zones to see if there was a way to reverse the effects of the modern world, the modern North American world. And within a year of when the experiment first started, that entire community was completely transformed, and their levels of obesity went down, their levels of cardiovascular disease went down, incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's went down, and the community spirit was increasing on such an exponential way that neighbors were looking after neighbors, and people were having potlucks, and there were celebrations going on, and everybody was involved in some way or another. No one was excluded or left out. Within a year, this community went from being a typical sort of probably middle to lower middle class community, and where everybody was just doing their own thing and living their own lives with high incidence of all the things that we are seeing in modern health right now in North America, to mimicking the health and wellness that we are observing in the blue zones. So that's the good news. That's what's so exciting. And it's something that I believe in wholeheartedly. And I try to educate as many people as I can about it, which is the resilience of the human species. We are amazingly resilient. And I personally do not believe that any health condition, like that's it. What am I trying to say here? I don't believe that anything isn't reversible, right? So when someone's given a death sentence, like you've got cancer, that's it, it's going to take you out. It could, and it might, if they believe it, and if they don't take any steps to help themselves be well, and they only the mainstream treatments, and they don't do any of their own personal work, then yes, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. Right? The body can heal itself when given the opportunity. And it's really less about what can we do to heal ourselves as it is, what can we do to stop making ourselves sick? And when we look at it from that perspective, what can I do to stop making myself sick? Now the responsibility for your health and well-being becomes yours. And for some people that might not be comfortable, but what I would say to that is, if it's yours, you have the power, right? You have the power to make yourself well again instead of feeling victim to your illness, whatever that might be. And I find that absolutely empowering.
Absolutely empowering. What are some of the best ways that we can heal ourselves?
Well, the very first thing is to take that first step of responsibility. You ask the question, what can I do to help myself? Right? And when you ask that question from a place of total curiosity and openness to the possibility that you do in fact have the power to heal yourself, you open up the connection between yourself and the divine, however you perceive that to be, or your infinite wisdom or your higher self. There's lots of words that we use to describe this body of knowing that is outside of our physical selves. In the moment of asking that question from a place of pure curiosity, you will hear answers. You'll hear answers. And they could be really simple. It could be drink more water. It could be stop eating at McDonald's. It could be try a new recipe every week and go get the ingredients and make it yourself. It could be go outside, call a friend. It doesn't have to be a great big huge revelation, but these small little ways incrementally that we can make changes in our lives and the way that we think about ourselves and our health and our wellness, they are completely within our grasp. They're absolutely free. And it's your own wisdom that's giving you that information, right? You could go and get a book and you could do, maybe there's 25 ways to make yourself better. You could certainly do that too. But I would suggest, and I would hope that if you were willing to try to listen to your own self and your own wisdom, you're going to heal a lot faster, and you're going to create a whole new relationship with yourself, which in and of itself is part of the healing and that healing process.
First step is acknowledging our own power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So important. And here's
Yeah.
the thing, even if you don't believe it, even if you say, I don't have the power, I don't have the control, I can't do this, it's out of my control, fake it. Fake it till you make it, right? You've heard that before. Pretend like you do. Imagine that you do. Because when you do that, your brain does this incredible thing. it creates new neural pathways of possibility. And this has been well studied in neurology. This is not, I mean, it could be woohoo, and I wouldn't mind if it were because I love the woohoo, but it's also very practically understood that our brains are plastic. We have a neural plasticity to our brains. We used to think that a brain was a rigid part of our body, it was a rigid organ. And that once something happened to it, that was it. There was no repairing it. And we now understand that that's not true at all. And we now understand that when we embark on a new way of thinking, a new perspective, and even just that imagining or wondering, what if I were healthy, our brain already knows that we are, and it starts to heal. It starts to create new neural pathways that allow new thoughts and ideas to become the new reality that the person is embarking on. So using your imagination to imagine what it feels like to be healthy and well, right there, you're already doing something to help you on that path to wholeness and wellness again. Something as simple as that. And so again, even if you don't believe it, and I have clients and I have family members and friends who say to me, no, that's not, I can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yes. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. And why not try? Why not just give it a try? What's the worst that could happen? Right? Just try.
What's the worst that could happen? You heal yourself. Maybe that's not a bad thing, though. you know.
Right. And, okay, so the worst that could happen is, and that's a good question to explore. And I do that. I do a lot of work around people, especially when we're looking at core limiting beliefs. It's like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, what in your imagination is the worst thing that could happen? And for someone who's dealing with a chronic illness, their answer is often, well, it won't work. I'll just be like I am. I won't get any better. Okay, well, that's a place that you're really comfortable with and that you're really familiar with. So if the worst thing that happens is that it doesn't work for some reason and you're back to square one, well, then good. Then try something else, right? You're already in a space that you're familiar with. So just try the next thing.
Right. Hmm. And I guess originally it might have been woo woo, but like thanks to people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's bringing a lot of the research backed healing to the mainstream, it's becoming scientific. It's undeniable now. Like people are healing themselves with, their own power, with their own, capabilities, and that's that's something that's one amazing, and two, it's not even like fully known yet how
Mm-hmm.
amazing such a thing is yeah.
That's true. And I've done a lot of research in my life around a lot of different things, a lot of different areas. And one of the questions that I had from a very young age is, well, why wouldn't someone want to be healthy, or why would others not want us to be well?
Right.
And when you start to look at that question, again, it's not rocket science. You can start putting two and two together. We do live in a world, at least parts of the world, and ours included, where money and gain are king. They reign supreme for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of money to be made if the population understands that they have the power to be healthy, right? That they have the power to think critically, that they, as a birthright, have freedom. That's not a moneymaker. What is a moneymaker is making people sick, is creating a problem and then providing a solution that they then have to pay for so that you then make the money. It's a formula, right? And again, this is not like not understood. This is definitely understood. So with that knowledge that there are a lot of businesses out there who make a lot of money off of us being sick, and it's in their best interest for us to continue to be sick and to continue to feel disempowered around our health and wellness. That knowledge, rather than seemingly there's nothing we can do about it, what that knowledge gives us is the ability to decide, are we going to play that game, or are we going to say, no, thank you, I will take care of myself. I will look after myself. I will learn how to look after myself. right? And when I say things like that, I want to be really clear, Sage. I'm not anti medicine. I'm not anti mainstream medicine. Emergency medicine is incredibly effective. If you break your leg on the ski slope or climbing a mountain or walking out your door, go to the emergency room and let somebody who knows what they're doing set your leg properly for you. Right? If you're experiencing a heart attack, please go to the hospital. Please go to the emergency where you've got people who know how to look after you in that moment. But once you've survived that heart attack and once your leg has healed, then maybe come to someone like myself to continue the deeper healing so that these things don't need to show up in your life.
Right. Exactly. Well said. Well said. So let's talk about oracle cards.
Mm,
How
yeah.
they how do they present themselves into your life? How they manifest into your life?
So oracle cards, okay, and if someone isn't familiar with what oracle cards are, they might be familiar with tarot cards. Tarot cards have a little bit of an iffy history for some people, but basically it's a piece of paper. Here, I can show you. This is one of my oracle cards. It's called Rainbow Hearts, and you can see that there's little hearts that look like they've got a rainbow hue to them. This is a piece of paper, right? And on the piece of paper, there's a photo that I took, and there's writing on the back. Same with the tarot. The only difference between a tarot card deck and an oracle card deck is that tarot follows a formula, and all decks that call themselves tarot decks have the same number of cards, the same kinds of symbols. They might have different themes, but there are certain elements that are expected to be represented on each card. And the tarot tells a story of an individual who is seeking guidance and wisdom as this individual goes through their lives. And then the different cards represent things like different people that can show up in a person's life to guide them or hinder them, or different elements of life. For example, cups is about money, the staff is about strength, and sometimes it can be about the spear is about strife. So there's those different experiences that we have that are universal experiences get represented in a deck of tarot cards. So it's a more structured approach to connecting with wisdom and guidance. Whereas the oracle card genre is pretty much no holds barred. Anything can be an oracle card deck. There are thousands and tens of thousands of oracle card decks out there right now. They're gaining immense popularity at the moment as a healing tool, as a meditation tool, as a guidance tool, as a take 5 minutes out of your day and focus in on what you need in that moment kind of a tool. For me, they were not, in fact, my first divination tool. And divination is a term that essentially means divining, looking for answers, traditionally for the future, but now it has a greater meaning. It's basically looking for answers or looking for solutions. My first divination tool was a bag of runes that came with it, and that was when I was 17, is when I found the rune stones. And that's a whole other history lesson in where the rune stones come from. But basically, again, it's a kind of a meditation tool based on symbols that exist from the Viking alphabet and symbols that go back even further than that, tens of thousands of years, that people have carved on, and logs and things like that. But from there, I started to explore, well, what else? What else is out there as a tool that could help me connect in with my intuition, or that I could ask for guidance or special spiritual messages from? And I found oracle cards. The first deck that I had was called the Cat Oracle, I believe. I don't have it any longer, but and I loved it because there were all these pictures of cats, and I liked cats. I had two cats at the time. As I was working with them over the years, I could really see for myself the value of having this kind of a spiritual tool. I mean, for some people, it could be the Bible, and maybe they flip open the Bible every morning and they take a passage, and that passage stays with them throughout the day, and they think about it, and they see places where they could, act on it or heal something with it. It's the same idea. It's the same idea as that. Um, and when I set up my practice as a healer, one of the things I offered people were oracle and tarot card readings. Who doesn't love a card reading, right? Um, and and I could see again the value. And what I started to witness and observe, it was so cool, is that the connection between what the person was thinking or what they were asking about or what was coming up in the intuitive counseling part of their session with me would be reflected in the card that they chose. And not every card in the deck is the same, right? And over the years, and I've been working with oracle cards now and published my own deck for over 30 years, you just can't make that stuff up. It's so incredible. And anyone who's worked with oracle cards for any length of time will tell you the same thing. And when that happens, that's when I know that there is a something, right? There's a something that's outside of myself that's just waiting for me to ask a question of, so that I can receive that information. And it's interesting that Rainbow Heart is the one that I just pulled off the deck, and I'll tell you why, especially considering what's happening down in the United States right now. This is what the message is. Love has as many hues as there are colors in a rainbow. Many of them are beyond our normal vision, yet we trust that they exist. Can you trust that love has meaning in your life, bridging the gap between normal vision and deeper vision? And in the book that comes in the box set, The Heart's Journey, which is the name of my oracle cards, I go into greater detail in this card, asking the question of, what does it matter who you love as long as you love? What does it matter how they show up? If they look like a woman, they look like a man, they look like a, I don't know, kangaroo. Not that I'm saying, have a relationship with a kangaroo, but you know what I mean? Like, what does it matter if they're big, short, tall, fat, skinny, crazy hair? What does it matter if there's love there? That's the most important thing. And so the way that you could work with a card like this is just to take that message and think about the loves in your life and how different they can be from one another, and yet how important they all are and how important it is for us to acknowledge them. And my way of loving might not be the same way as your way of loving, but both ways are value. I mean, both ways are just that. They're loving.
Love it. Well said. So was that quote, love has more colors than the spectrum of the rainbow, or what was it?
Love has as many hues as there are
Oh,
colors in the rainbow.
has many hues as there's. Wow, I love that. I do.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
beautiful.
Yeah. Well, each of these cards is a photograph that I took of these amazing hearts, and I'll show you a few of them. Let's see. This one's called Joined at the Heart, and somebody carved this into the sand on the island of Kauai after a huge hurricane had just decimated the island. And as the beaches were being opened and life was turning back to normal, here was these two beautiful hearts that were
Yeah.
connecting with one another on the beach. Here's another one. This is called Heart View. This is a ginger plant
Mm,
in the jungle, and look at how beautiful those leaves are.
yeah.
Nature gives us hearts all over the place. Here's one of my favorites. This is a cloud,
Yeah.
right? And it's called Heart Thoughts, and it's all about how love can be fleeting. We can't hang on to it. We can't make it into something. It has its own life force,
Right.
right? And each of these hearts, they came into my life as I was coming out of a 23-year marriage and relationship with two little kids, two beautiful little daughters. And I had asked the universe, I said, what, just give me a sign, show me something, a symbol or something that when I see it, I will recognize and be reminded that I'm doing my best to follow my heart above all other voices. And I'm doing my best to be in integrity with the decisions and choices that I'm going to have to make, knowing how difficult those are going to be for myself and the people around me. And the universe has a great sense of humor. And I started seeing hearts because I was asking about my heart, right?
Right.
And so each of the messages on the cards, these are my messages from my experiences, the things that I was going through, the things that I was navigating, the understanding that I have about relationships and love from all the work that I've done and all the studying and the counseling and all of it, and the esoteric research, the metaphysical of what is love and relationship. And so all of that wisdom and experience I share on each of these cards. So when you work with these cards and your intention is to heal your heart or understand your heart better, or the relationships that you are in, your relationship with yourself or with others, they can be an anchor or a touchstone for grounding through the messages that that they share. And then
Right.
it comes in this beautiful box set. We published it with Hay House and Balboa Press. So you get this hardcover box, and in the box you get the Heart's Journey book, which here we go. In this book, I share my story. I share that story about coming out of that relationship and what that was like and what was happening around me and the struggles around that, and why these hearts, why following our hearts can be that path to healing. And then I also teach you what is an oracle card, how to work with them as a meditation tool, as a way to tap into your own knowing. And then each of the hearts has their own page. So you get the message on the card, but then you get to go into further detail, further information. And there's always a kernel, a nugget of something in there that's going to have that moment of, oh, wow, that's me. They're speaking to me about that. And then in order to keep track of all of your card pulls, you get a journal. And the journal it's again, all my photography, not necessarily the same pictures that are on the card. So different hearts,
Right.
different heart images. And there's quotes. This one is, allow yourself to feel nurtured and supported. Right? So these little reminders throughout the journal. And then it doesn't stop there, but wait, there's more. Just so you have everything you need for your journey, you get this really beautiful pen, get a little bookmark, and the pièce de la résistance, you get your deck of oracle cards, 42 cards in the deck. So the whole thing comes together, and you can take it with you anywhere you want. It's solid. And you can just work with it. You do maybe one card pull a morning. You do a card pull in the evening. You wait 3 months and you do a full big 12-month spread. There's so many different ways that you can work with these tools. And in this time and place that we're in right now, I believe that every tool you can put into your healing toolkit that helps you to feel grounded and connected to your life purpose, gives you hope, gives you comfort, use it.
Yes.
Just use it. We need it right
Exactly.
now. Yes.
What comes to mind would that I feel would be really cool is with your oracle cards. If there was a app that did a pull for you, like it did a oracle card pull for you, and then it sends it to your phone, and then you have the oracle card there, and you can look at it. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. And we looked at trying to do that when we first published this. This is the 10th anniversary actually of the Heart's Journey. It was 10 years ago this year that this came out. This box set came out. And at the time, we were trying to negotiate with Hay House to put together something like that, because they were just starting to experiment with that. And I'd found a few card decks that had that kind of an app. And so you just basically, you tap the screen and boom, a card comes up for you, and you take that card with you on your phone. But at the time, I was a first-time author. They hadn't worked with me before, and they were not wanting to necessarily invest the time and effort into creating something like that for someone who wasn't yet known.
Yes.
So they were working with their more established authors who published oracle card decks with them than they were with me. But thank you for that reminder, because, yeah, it's been 10 years and the technology sure has changed.
It has
Uh,
changed a lot.
yeah, and
And
I love that idea. I love that
yeah,
idea.
it's
Yeah.
gotten to the point where people can like do these things themselves in a day. Like the technology has improved so much that I watched a seventh grader make an app, but like in front of me with a
Oh,
tutorial. I was like,
wow.
wow. Yeah, I was like, wow. Technology has, you know, it keeps going. It keeps
It's
going.
incredible. I
Yeah.
do feel like a bit of a Luddite sometimes. I mean, I'm from the era where we still had phones that were attached to the walls in your house, and you could leave your home and nobody knew where you were. It was kind of nice, actually.
Yes, times have
Yes,
changed.
times have definitely.
Have changed.
You had to go
Yes.
to a movie theater to watch a movie.
Yeah,
And
right.
if you were lucky, maybe you might see a movie on Disney, but it wasn't Disney Plus and it wasn't a streaming service, and you did have commercials, and you did have to wait till the next week to see the rest of it. So
Exactly.
I'm dating myself right now. Not that I mind, but
I mean, for me, that was just my childhood. That really wasn't, that long ago where all of that was my reality. And now
yeah,
it seems like people don't want to go to the movies anymore. COVID has changed so much. People don't want to go outside like that, you
that
know?
is such a heartbreak for me. Um, when I see people so I live in a beautiful town called Victoria in British Columbia, Canada. I live right down on the water. We have some of the best air quality in the country. We have beautiful water. We've got lots of open green spaces. It's so fresh and clean out there. And then I see somebody who's still wearing a mask. I see little kids, their parents have put a mask on them, and my heart breaks because, I mean, first of all, I've done the research and I know that it's kind of like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence. It doesn't work for the things that people are thinking that they do work for. And there's tons of, I can give you 250 research um, papers that express this. We know this to be true, but it's the fear that people are walking around with. They don't even realize that they're afraid. And instead of taking a big, beautiful breath of beautiful, fresh air, they're breathing in little plastic fibers and thinking themselves safe. But from what? Right? The sun is shining today. Vitamin D is being made in your body at rates you can't even imagine when you're standing out in the sunshine. Never mind the fresh air. And in my case, being near the ocean, I'm very fortunate to be near the ocean. That's an incredibly healing place to be. The trees are just coming into bud. The soil is thawing. Oh my gosh. I, yeah, it breaks my heart when I think of how successful the fear campaigns over the last 5 years have been. Not for everybody. And there's been quite a bit of a unexpected backlash where people have said, you know what, I think something's not quite right about all of this, and I think I might, I think I might find out more. When we were talking earlier about the resilience of you, your body, there are so many ways that you can be healthy. And when you are healthy in mind, body, and soul, you don't tend to get sick. You don't tend to need to detoxify as much or in such dramatic ways if your body is already in a better state of health and well-being. And yes, the last 5 years have changed everybody's lives. It's unprecedented what's happened in the last 5 years. And it's unfortunate, it's not a strong enough word, but abuse upon abuse upon abuse has been given to the human species. And yet we are resilient, and yet we rally, and yet we are still here despite all the dire predictions that were coming out. And I believe, and I hope this is true, that people are starting to shed that fear. They're starting to recognize that the fear is actually the illness, right? Everything else is your body trying to find balance and stasis again. The fear is the illness. So when you start to question, what am I afraid of? And again, you do it from that place of curiosity, like, how can I be well? What am I afraid of? And then, why am I afraid of that? You can work with that to create a relationship with it, to better understand your reactions, and then learn to not react, but rather to take the time to respond. And when we talked about what can you do to be healthy, that's one of the things you can do to be healthy, is learn how to not react and understand how to respond differently. And you can feel it in your body, right? Even as I'm saying it, I can feel it in my body. Responding takes time. It gives you a moment to think before you speak or do something. And so that calms down your entire nervous system, your entire central nervous system. Whereas reacting is an instant thing. It's fight or flight. And then you've got cortisols, going through your body. Your adrenals are being it's not a good place to spend a lot of time in. We were given flight or fight as a way to survive in a moment. We were never meant to live in it. That's not healthy.
Indeed, it's not healthy at all, and that's the type of state of being that people live in all day, every day, and then their immune system get compromised, and they're just a mess trying to recover. And for me, I just realized that it really comes down to your belief systems. Like, there is that balance of internal belief systems and external influence. Like, there are things outside of you that can, let's say you get sick, you get the flu or something. That's something that's external, came into your body, and now you're sick. Well, if you have the internal belief that I can overcome this and anything else, You might be sick for a couple hours and then you're over it, a day or whatever. It just comes down to how strong you feel about whatever belief systems that you have. And, if you feel that you can heal yourself, then, I feel like reality has no choice but to conform to the belief systems that you're maintaining inside of you, that frequency that you're holding inside of you.
Absolutely. And then the other aspect of that too, Sage, is that we are in a physical form. This is a physical body, and it does have limitations. I mean, I'm
Right.
saying it does, and I'm saying, well, we have the potential to do this, that, and the other thing. And I believe that's true. And also at the same time, it's also a fragile system, right? We've evolved on this planet to be adaptive to this planet, but that doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen to us. Like you say, from the external, and then also from the internal. So there's a discussion between the terrain theory of health and wellness and the germ theory of health and wellness. And this could be a whole podcast looking at the history of this and where we got the idea about germs and who was the person who brought that forth and how did he do it, and then who took that research and what they've done with it since. I'm just going to say Rockefeller, for those of you who might know what I'm talking about. Not to be cryptic, but it's a whole other conversation. But the point that I'm making is that the terrain is your body, right? And when your terrain is healthy and strong, even let's say germs and viruses, we can say unequivocally they exist. By the way, they are a theory. They are still a theory. We still don't really know. But let's pretend that they are real and you are exposed to them. You're exposed to some germs, you're exposed to some viruses. When your terrain is strong and resilient, your body takes care of it. It's like we have cancers in our body all the time. It's just when cells hyperdivide. And I don't say just to diminish cancer, but my point is that it's in us constantly, and our bodies are constantly taking care of it. Unless something tips the balance, and now your body's too acidic instead of alkaline, right? Or you've been exposed to external toxins like radiation, or pollution, or bug spray. What do they call them now? Spongy moths. For the last 4 or 5 years, we've been sprayed every spring from aerial spraying to combat the spongy moth, and all kinds of health issues have shown up here in Victoria that can be correlated to that particular poison that's being put in the air. When you experience what we call being sick, a cold or a flu, that's your body detoxifying itself, right? It's creating inflammation, which creates heat, which moves things in your body. It's creating mucus, which is trying to trap external things like dust and pollen and insecticides. And when you sneeze and you cough, that's your body trying to get it out. So sometimes when you are sick, the best thing you can do is let yourself be sick. Make yourself comfortable, drink lots of broth, eat lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, and rest so that your body can do what your body knows how to do best. And it's not always comfortable, and it can be sometimes downright awful. I was sick for 2 months between the beginning of December, and it sort of tapered off at the end of January. And I was doing all the things I know how to do, taking all my things, all my tinctures, all my supplements, my vitamins, getting my, fresh air as much as I could. And also, I had gotten to a point just in my own level of energetics that I was exhausted. And my body was saying, please just slow down. Please just take some time, and I can be stubborn and I can say, no, I don't want to. And I've got so many things I need to do and blah, blah, blah. We all can do that. But I did trust through that process that I was going to get better, because we do, and that my body knew what it was doing. And my best approach was to allow my body to do what it needed to do while supporting myself in all the ways that I know how to do. So it's a different kind of view about being ill, and the idea that we can be strong and resilient all the time isn't practical in our world anymore. And so when those things show up, you can have a different belief system about their importance, and then have a different experience of them as you allow your body to take care of itself and do the detoxing that it needs to do from whatever it is that you've been exposed to, or the overworking that you have likely done to allow the terrain to not be as strong as it could be.
It is very much the Western world's way of solving for the symptom. You know, if you have inflammation, take an anti-inflammatory. If you have pain, take a painkiller. It's not
Mm-hmm.
to say that, you know, that these things can't be useful, but it's just always, we're always trying to fight whatever the body's doing instead of letting the body take care of itself, knowing that the body is an intelligent being and it's doing what it needs to do to keep the body, you know, alive and functioning and going. And yeah, this.
Exactly. And we are organic beings, right? We're made up of organic matter, and we're
Mhm.
part of the matrix of the planet. So
Right.
when we eat well, we eat good food, as good as we can get it, we're helping our bodies. Our bodies respond to that kind of care. When we eat mushrooms, for example, we're getting all kinds of amazing medicinal benefits from mushrooms. I mean, the research is through the roof right now on all the things that mushrooms can do for us. They're a fungi that comes out of the mycelium that's underneath the earth that we are a part of. So why is it any surprise that foods are medicine and herbs are medicine and mushrooms are medicine, that they all help us to be healthy? And it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that when we are over medicated on synthetic chemical based pharmaceutical drugs, although they may in the immediate seem to give relief, when taken on a regular basis, they end up undermining so many of our systems, our cognitive function, our heart, our blood, our all of it, our joints. The I've done a lot of work with pharmaceutical medications, and so I do know what I'm talking about when I say this, because I've witnessed it, I've watched it, and I've done the research. Every pharmaceutical medication that's out there, especially the prescription level medications, their side effects are like this. And many of the side effects are the very thing that the person is taking the medication to help with. Right? You're taking an anti-anxiety medication, and one of the side effects is anxiety or suicidal thoughts. There's a disconnect there for me. and and the reason there's so many side effects is because people have had those reactions and responses after taking. That's what a clinical trial is supposed to determine, is the efficacy of this chemical compound. And that's what it is. It's a synthetic chemical compound that can interfere with processes in the body that can provide a short-term relief, but that when taken on for the rest of your life, create a whole host of other issues. And there are some very brave researchers and doctors who are beginning to really notice this and are starting to question the wisdom of that kind of medical model. Throw a pill at it. The medical model that I come from is a holistic understanding and appreciation that everything that comes into my body is going to have an effect on every part of my body, right? This is a holistic system here. If I hit my elbow, my toe is going to know about it, right? So when we come from that place of a holistic, we're not only looking at the physical, we're looking at the emotional. We're understanding the energetics of it. I used to get sick all the time when I was younger. I was chronically ill. I chronically had usually chest and sinus infections. And when I started learning that the chest holds emotional grief, that's one of the places where we hold grief, I then started to look at what was I grieving. And I was able to understand that, wow, I was actually grieving. I was carrying a whole lot of grief, unresolved from years and years. So then I started to do my work around that grief and processing that grief and understanding it and letting it be okay. And then I didn't get sick as much. I didn't get sick here as often, right? So this is, I know we're going through some rabbit holes here, but I think they're really important rabbit holes, because what I really want people to leave this conversation with is an understanding that there's so much more going on than perhaps what they've been taught. And that within the knowledge that there's so much going on than what they have been taught, they could begin the journey of finding out what it is that they haven't been taught, and then being able to bring that wisdom into their lives so that they can be well. And everyone's wellness is individual. My best day might be somebody's worst day and vice versa. It doesn't matter what's happening to somebody else. You find out what is your best day, and then you work with that.
Mm, yes, finding the things that we haven't been taught and being open and receptive to learning those things.
Mm.
From your perspective, where are we headed and what should people be doing to ground themselves to make sure they are maintaining a good balance and stuff like that?
Yeah, certainly. Well, a lot of what we've already talked about, very simply, get yourself out in nature. Even if you live downtown somewhere or you live where there's a lot of concrete, I guarantee you nature has found a way to show up for you. And it might just be a little flower coming through the crack in the sidewalk, or it could be a tree nearby. Nature finds a way. So find those natural areas that are around you, or bring them to you if you have the capacity to get a house plant. Bring some herbs into your garden if you have a garden, or your balcony. Or there are so many different ways that you can invite nature into your life. Walking and movement, so important, so important. We are such a sedentary people these days. You've got to get up and out. You've got to get out and walking, go up and down the stairs. And I'm sorry if your knees hurt, but they're hurting because you're not walking enough. You're not moving enough. So do it in small increments. Do what you can, but always do something. And then make sure that you're connecting with others of like mind, others of different mind. You want to be having these interactions. We are an energetic species. We fuel one another when we're in connection with one another. And it's fine that we can do it over the computer now. I mean, this is amazing. This is Star Trek from the 60s and everybody going, it'll never happen. I mean, it's phenomenal what we can do, but it's not the same as being in someone's physical energy. So go to the grocery store and stand in line and start a conversation with somebody, or the bus driver, or the person in the coffee shop. At least once a day, have some kind of interaction with another human being. And it can just be about anything. How are you doing? Right? That's another good one. Do something for someone else. We are very much trained now to just make it be all about us. Blinders on, focus me, me, me. There are so many other people out there in the world that you can interact with, that you can make a difference without even knowing that you're making that difference. So do something for someone else. Hold open the door, buy them a coffee, whatever. You can get really creative. You can start lists of how can I help somebody else today. So if once a day you're helping somebody else or doing something kind for them, you're interacting with another human being, and you're getting outside and you're moving your body somehow, those three things right there are going to get you through the next few years. In answer to your question, what do I think is going to happen in the next few years? Well, that's a big question. I am, however, an eternal optimist. I always have been, much to the annoyance of some people in my life. I'm always seeing, it's not even like I'm looking for, I'm always seeing that there's always something positive that comes from anything, strife, turmoil, all of it. And I know there's some horrific things that are happening on the planet right now, and the ways in which we are capable of treating one another is mind-boggling to me. And yet there are more acts of kindness happening in any given moment on this planet than there are acts of brutality. We just don't get to hear about them because it's not dramatic enough and it's not distracting enough. But it's true. So find those moments of kindness and know that everything cycles. Everything cycles. So instead of going into a nihilistic thinking and apocalyptic thinking, and my God, the world's coming to an end and the sky is falling, know that this planet is perfectly capable of looking after itself. It has for billions and billions of years, and it's faced far worse than what we're doing to it right now. And at the same time, take some self-responsibility for your stewardship of the planet. Because in that, you will have purpose and you will have meaning. And when you have purpose and meaning, you feel better. That's my prescription.
I love it. Yes. Those are some actionable words. So hopefully those that resonated with someone and they can take some action. So that's
Well,
good.
listen, speaking of giving,
Hmm.
I would love to give to your audience, and any of my audience that are watching this as well, anyone who's watching this, I would love to give a coupon for 20% off purchasing their own deck of the Heart's Journey. And I would also love to send you a deck for your very own as a thank you for the space that you hold for these sorts of conversations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
I would love that. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so as we wrap up this conversation, I have my questions that I ask all of my guests. First question is, what does love mean to you? What is your definition of love?
Love is trust and connection. Trust and connection. Here's an interesting thing about love. You can't have love if you don't trust. And a lot of people on the planet right now are not trusting, which means they're not loving. So the trust is there, and then the connection. You can love all by yourself. There's lots of things you can love on your own. But to really experience love, to experience the depth of it and the energy of love, there needs to be connection. Of any positive, healing kind of connection is going to open up the heart to love.
I
And what
love
was the
that.
next question?
Yes, I haven't set
Oh, okay.
the next one yet, but I love trust and connection. Trust and connection.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, trust is such a difficult thing for some people, you know, getting to I guess I would say vulnerable, being vulnerable, is that the word to use? To open
It's
up, to allow, to trust?
Yes, certainly that's a part of it. I believe that we come into these physical forms so that we can experience certain things that are not available to us when we're in a non-corporeal form, when we're in heaven or wherever we go afterwards. We choose to come back because there's very specific things that are very human, and trust is one of those very human things, right? If you look around at the other creatures on the planet, trust isn't an issue for them unless they've been abused by a human being. Like a dog can be distrustful, a cat can be distrustful if they've had those kinds of experiences. But most other creatures on the planet, they don't have any trust issues because they just know, they just do and know how to be them. You know, the bear knows how to be a bear, and the elk knows how to be an elk, and the snake knows how to be a snake. We don't know how to be a people because we've
Yeah.
lost that trust. And it's not about blind trust. It's about discernment. And again, this could be a whole other conversation. I do a whole teaching around trust, and the ninth chakra and the chakra system is another whole area of learning and wisdom that I have. Our just really quickly, our ninth chakra is here in the body. It comes back, we come back into the body from the soul chakra, which is up here above our bodies and not connected to the physical form. We come back into the body because this is the vessel, this is the temple that takes us through this life. And so we need to come back into the body to have trust of the body as a foundation for any other trust that we might have moving forward. If we cannot trust ourselves to be able to make wise decisions and understand what's happening around us, then we are in a state of distrust. And if we are in a state of distrust, it's really challenging for love to take hold of us when that mistrust is there. So it's a whole body of work that I do on helping people learn to trust themselves, their own intuition, their own knowing, their own knowledge, and all of that, in order to then fully open to all the different hues of the rainbow of love, like the card said that we pulled at the beginning.
Beautiful. Love it. Yes, and the follow-up question is, what does the sun represent to you?
All right. Well, today the sun is warmth. We've had a for our area of the world, we've had a very long cold snap, cold spell. Nothing compared to what the rest of the continent is dealing with snow and cold. We have a very temperate climate here, but nonetheless, it's been cold and rainy and windy. You know, the world's been wintering, or our little neck of the world's been wintering. And today, the sun is shining and the temperature has risen above 10 degrees, and just standing on my deck this afternoon and letting the sun warm my face and my body. I could feel my heart just lightening. Like my whole body was singing. It was vibrating with that beautiful warmth. And I I love the sun. I love that we have this incredible planet that it warms us. Without that warmth, we nothing would be living on the planet. We cannot live without it. And a lot of people distrust the sun. Again, here's that trust again. We've been taught to distrust the sun. We've been taught to slap on, you know, all kinds of chemicals on our skin to keep us from getting a sunburn. And don't go out in the sun and be covered up in the sun. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. But being in the sun and looking up at the sun and feeling that warmth, and underneath that warmth is that nourishment. It's what's nourishing us. And when we're nourished, then we are in a state of contentment. So I suppose the sun, to me, then by that logic, is contentment. It means being content.
Yes, exactly. I'm right there with you because I have been waiting for the sun, and we finally got some 50-degree weather this week. And I was like, yes, we are getting so much closer,
Yes.
so much closer.
Yeah. And
So,
winter is an important part of our cycle.
definitely.
At least up here. I mean, other parts of the world don't get winter the way that we do. But
Right.
I feel fortunate that we get 4 seasons. We get to have these transitions.
Yeah.
And winter is about reflection, and it is about going inward when you're conscious of the connection to the cycles of nature. Our ancestors who experienced winter, they would they would sorry they would huddle together. I don't mean huddle like ooh. I mean they would come together in community, and they would share their resources, and they would mend their nets, and they would make song and music, and they would embroider, and they would do all kinds of things, and they would do it in a hibernating kind of way.
Right.
I think we would not get so sick. There would be no flu season if we actually stopped expecting people to work equally to how they can work in the summertime when we're all charged by the sun.
Yeah.
If instead we did 6-hour days instead of 8-hour days in the wintertime, we'd have way more efficiency.
Mm.
And if we gave ourselves the understanding that winter is a time to come together and to look after one another and look after ourselves and recharge ourselves, well, we'd be so much healthier.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Where can people reach out to you if they want to learn more?
I would love for people to reach out to me. I love that connection. There's that connection again. You can certainly visit me at my website, which is meganedge.ca, and you'll see on my website all the services and the things that I do. You'll find the classes that I'm teaching and sharing. You'll find access to my YouTube channel where there's over 300 videos of talks that I've given and workshops that I've given and bits of wisdom and interviews that I've done with others and others have done with me. It's a great resource. You can also find me through LinkedIn at Megan Edge. You can find me on Facebook, Megan Edge Healing. You can find me on Instagram. I think that might be it. I try to actually give people fewer places to find me rather than more because it's just hard to manage all of it. But the best thing is to go to my website, and from there you can reach out to me and send me an email contact, and we can start the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure. And
Mm,
thank you all for watching. Praise the sun.
thank you. Thank you, Sage.